out there? Welcome to a Word Hole Media presentation of Major League A-Holes. I am Pete.
I'm Ryan. You are in the hole with Major League A-Holes, episode 155. This will be our 6th annual Asshole of the Year episode, as we are coming to you in mid-December. We've got plenty of news besides that to talk about, as your Chicago White Sox have traded Garrett Crochet to the Red Sox. We've got plenty of trade rumors for my Tigers and Cubs. You got a lot going on with your Giants that we need to talk about. We've got some shit you couldn't make up, including the Juan Soto signing and the golden at bat, which I think you and I are going to have a field day with, as most of the baseball world already has. And we'll wrap it up with our asshole of the year that everyone has been anticipating breathlessly, I'm sure. So I think with that, we might as well go ahead and jump into the news.
Garrett Crochet is no longer with the White Sox. He is now with the Red Sox. The White Sox have yet again traded a similar type pitcher as Chris Sale to the Red Sox.
2016. Yeah, same as 2016. Deja vu.
Well, let's hope it's not deja vu, because when I hear White Sox Red Sox trade, my stomach gets a little like, hey, let me get some Pepto or Imodium, you know?
Yeah.
Because like if you look at that trade, nothing panned out like it was supposed to, and here we are in a second rebuild with no world championship in hand, and we've done a trade with the Red Sox. Now, you know, looking at this one, which I'm gonna like jump into that in a second, it's a little bit more robust than the Chris Sale trade, mainly because at the time the Red Sox traded what was considered the number one prospect in all of baseball, Yoan Moncada, to the White Sox, and so they then the fill-ins were players of lesser value that have I can't remember the other two individuals, but they ended up not doing anything. So this one looks a little bit better. I've read different analysis of it. One was it CBS Sports gave the Sox a B and the Red Sox an A, and then the Athletic was like it was a good deal for both sides. But both articles were very honest, and it's the same way I feel about it. Is can the White Sox develop these players? And that's the question. I mean, I feel like if it's a pitcher, yeah, there's a very good chance they'll develop them okay. But if they're a position player, will they? And that's the plague of the White Sox organization for the last 2 decades. But they got, I know Rosenthal said they got 4 of their top like 15 prospects. Every list is different, but
I actually went through all that, looked at that. They kept I think it's their 4 through 14 prospects, 4 of those. The Red Sox held on to their top 3 prospects, but you got the number 25 overall, at least according to MLB Pipeline, and was it 54? I actually analyzed that because I had a whole segment ready to go if that trade hadn't occurred. If we had recorded this a day or two ago, I had a couple trade proposals for Crochet to go to the Tigers or the Cubs even, which is always the eternal fun discussion to have. But they actually matched up pretty well in a lot of ways, just because the Tigers had 5 different top 10 or top 100 prospects. The Cubs have 8. So at the time, it was rumored that the White Sox were going to demand like 3 top 100 prospects. It ended up being 2 top 100 prospects, and the Red Sox didn't give up their top 3. So I kind of re-looked at that analysis I was going to do and see what the Tigers and Cubs, if they could have matched that or beaten that. And they really couldn't have, mainly because the Tigers wouldn't, if they're going to hold on to their top 3 prospects and trade their 4th and 5th potentially, it would have been like the number 40. No, it'd be like a number 52 and number 60 or something instead of the 25 and 54. Tigers would not be interested in giving up on two of the top 10 prospects in all of baseball, with Jackson Jobe, who's going to be in the rotation this year, and Max Clark, who's shortstop of the future, second baseman potentially. But those are both two top 10. So, their third prospect is Kevin McGonigal. He's like the number 31 overall. And I think if there was going to be a trade within the division, which the White Sox are very clearly reluctant to do, as they nix deals that could have happened with the Twins last year. I think that the tax for that may have been, well, we need your third best prospect. And that would have been Kevin McGonigal at number 31. I don't think the Tigers would have done that. But again, that's still not as good as what you got from the Red Sox. The matchup that comes the closest to what the Red Sox gave up is the Cubs. Cubs have eight top 100 prospects, which is ridiculous, but they're a little bit lower down the range. Matt Shaw is their number one prospect. He's number 22 overall, which would only be 3 spots better than what you got from the Red Sox. So, I mean, if I went with the same criteria, if the Cubs held on to their top 3 prospects and started with their number 4, they would hold on to Matt Shaw, Owen Casey, and Cade Horton. Their next prospect would be Moises Ballesteros, catching prospect, which I don't think they'd even get rid of him. So you're back moving into the 50s again. So, and really the Tigers and Cubs were the only thing that could come close to matching what the Red Sox did. Red Sox were just, I didn't realize this, how many top 100 prospects they had, but they were uniquely positioned to give you a good return while they still held on to their top 3. So I think you guys did as good, at least, in this analysis with MLB Pipeline. Statistically, you did as good as you could possibly do. If there was no one else out there, it's not like you could have turned down better deals from the Cubs or anybody else just out of spite. I think Chris Getz did a great job.
Yeah. Breaking it down just real quick, because everyone, you can go out there and read this if you're really interested. But the number 4 prospect was Kevin Teal, 22-year-old catcher. He was projected to be being the backup catcher of the starting catcher of the future for the Red Sox as early as middle of this upcoming season. And as always, as the White Sox pull from outside the organization, he immediately becomes their number 2 prospect. So I looked all that stuff up. It's always funny because of how bad the farm system was over the last before, as Getz was taking over, how badly it had become that all these trades, these players all kind of slot very high. The Brandon Montgomery is an intriguing pickup. The outfielder they got, who fractured his ankle in the NCAA Super Regionals, but I mean, he seems to be exactly what the White Sox have been looking for in an outfielder. Dare to dream if there was some way that Lewis Robert could get back to form, and maybe they keep him and add this guy to the outfield with Lewis Robert playing his game. The Sox would immediately, in another year and a half or so, probably be talking about playoffs again. But Robert's obviously probably out the door, and because of the fractured ankle, Montgomery's not even he's gonna first be playing baseball again this spring training. He's just started to resume, working out and things like that, but he hasn't even resumed baseball activities yet. So he's not probably going to be anywhere near the White Sox until like 2027. But he does slot in at the number 4 prospect of the White Sox. An immediate someone will definitely see on the team this upcoming season is Chase Medroth. He played in AAA last year. He's a high contact OBP, top of the lineup guy. He hit safely in 31 straight games in AAA last year. He's exactly what I feel like the White Sox have been looking for at the start of their lineup. It could be the I have him. I put him in the leadoff spot personally, probably at second base, and he slots in as the number 13th prospect. Wickelman Gonzalez, the pitcher they got, he's a little more interesting. He's a prototypical White Sox reclamation project. And what I mean by that is he was once considered like one of the top 2 pitchers in the Red Sox organization, but last year in Double-A, he took a major step back, posted a 4.73 ERA in 19 starts with a 12.8% walk rate. That's just not good. His upside is huge, but it's going to take some work. So, like I said, those top 3 guys, the first 3 individuals I talked about, all seem legit. The question I do have is, because any White Sox trade, there's always for me, there's always a question mark. And I understand, like, when you're dealing with prospects, you gotta, like, you want to take the best prospects that they're going to give you. But I just want to remind everyone that when the Sox traded away Lopez and Giolito, the big acquisition in there was Edgar Cuero, who is their number 6 prospect, who is also a catcher, who is a very good catcher. He's a switch hitter. And Teal, I should point out, is a left-handed bat. Statistically, they had just about the same seasons, both in Double-A and Triple-A. Cuero's power numbers were a little bit better. He had 16 homers, 70 RBIs in 98 games. So now the Sox have 2 top 10 prospect rated catchers within their own organization and 2 top 15 rated prospect catchers within, 2 top 50 rated prospect catchers within MLB pipeline. What's the end game here of the thought? Is one of them moving to first? Because when you look at their prospect list, they don't have a first baseman on the list. And you would think Andrew Vaughn, we've seen what Andrew Vaughn is. He's just like an okay first baseman. We'll be streaky.
I heard his name come up a lot in winter meetings this week. Like, Vaughn surprisingly was kind of a hot name. Obviously nothing happened with that, but I think many people found it a little bit remarkable that his name had come up so much in potential trade talks. So maybe that's where they're going.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see him having any huge value. I think this is, again, a situation where you roll the dice with him and hope he has a good first half and then move him. The other thing is I guess with the DH, if your tandem of catchers were 2 very young and athletic, viable catchers that both can call good games, one can be catching, one can be DH then. So, but it just is, the old joke used to be the Sox used to stockpile first basemen. That was always the joke. And they did. They used to have, like, if you looked at their top 100 prospects, easily instead of, like, there'd be like 6 or 7 were freaking first basemen. It was like crazy. And now it's catcher. So, and I think catcher's a bit of a trigger for them because they've not been able ever to develop a catcher. They haven't. They've had lots of catchers come up through the organization that were supposed to be like the next great catcher, and they've never panned out. They went elsewhere and done marginally well, but they have yet to truly develop a catcher. So I don't know if that's why, but it just was like, I was like, wow, okay, so our number 2 and number 6 prospects are both catchers.
Is that a fire alarm going off there? What the hell just happened?
I just remembered I forgot to shut off the dryer. Let me pause here. Go down there. I meant to shut it off before I came up, so that didn't happen.
I think that's the buzzer for every time you need to end the White Sox segment. Let's just stop.
I had talked enough. I've done enough about. You've done enough about the crochet trade. Time's up. Move on to the next topic. So give me 1 second.
It's
okay?
possible. Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. Nah, it's fine.
Is it fine? Should I go shut it off or not? Because it's gonna buzz again in probably 10 minutes.
Is it gonna keep doing it, or that might be funny actually?
in 10 or 15 minutes, probably again. Like 1 or 2 more times at most. Fuck it. Let's go. Okay. So, like, should I redo that last
No.
Okay, I'll just go like
pick it
this.
up wherever.
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard in the background, but that was my buzzer that I talked enough about the Garrett Crochet trade. So moving on, on a sad note, Bill Melton passed away. And why I got to see him play as a wee lad, but have no recollection. And the only reason I know is because he was on the team when I went to my first White Sox game. What I really liked about Bill Melton was when he was part of the pregame crew, he was by far one of the most honest analysts the White Sox have ever had. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He was dead on with his analysis and had a great sense of humor. And I really loved when he was doing the a pregame analyst for the White Sox. It was good stuff. I mean, interesting stat on Bill Melton is he ranks 9th on the White Sox an all-time home run list with 154 homers. And I said to myself, wow, 154 homers gets you number 9 on the White Sox list? That's not a very good list.
Wow.
So for fun, I said, if you took Bill Melton and put him on the Yankees, where would he rank on that home run list? Not top 10, not top 20, not top 30, but just outside the top 30. He would rank 31 in Yankees history with 154 homers. So that shows you, I always like to put things in perspective for Chicago baseball. You hear a stat, actually for most Chicago teams, you hear a stat and it says, oh, well, in X team's history, they rank number 5. Well, let's put that in perspective because historically, the team has not been very good. So it's not that big of a deal. But so I just thought that was kind of funny that he on a better performing team, it's not that great of a stat.
So. I never saw him play. Of course, I wasn't paying attention to the White Sox then, but I did, see him on the pre and post, whatever. I always thought he was solid. But the interesting thing is like the outpouring after he passed this past week on Chicago Sports on Radio has been great. I didn't realize he apparently was a super awesome dude, like just a great guy. So I heard a lot of stories about him, and over the last week that I didn't know anything about him. I thought he was a little bland as a host or as a analyst, but I mean, like you said, he was brutally honest. So it was just interesting to know that he was a good dude. Like to buy beer for people, just a kind of random acts of kindness. So it was good to get stories like that.
Yeah, you don't hear a lot of that these days. I think that's it. I think that's all I got for the White Sox. I know Dick Ellen had made the Hall of Fame. Didn't again? I
posthumously.
Another ridiculous post-death Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, I mean his career OPS is in the 900s, so they wait till he's dead for 4 years to put him in the fucking Hall. I mean, it's the same thing that drove me nuts when after Ron Santo passed that they finally decided to put him in because they're just bitter, angry people running that thing. So I don't know. This is part of why we don't talk about the Hall of Fame ever, because it's just a fucking stupid popularity contest. Doesn't recognize the best players in the game. But at the same time, it's cool that Dick Ellen, at least his family, gets to celebrate that. I heard a couple of interviews with his son, and I guess Allen had been like one vote away on 2 different occasions from making it. So it's just kind of been like making the family a nervous wreck, and they kind of let it go, and now he finally makes it. So it's cool for the family. But that was such a fucked up time. I mean, not that we're in any less fucked up times, but he dealt with a shit ton of racism, and he just never got recognized nationally because he's in Chicago, I guess. I don't know why. Like everything, you just never hear about Dick Allen except for in Chicago. So at least he's getting the final recognition, but still ridiculous that these things can't happen while these people are alive. Fucking assholes.
Yeah, the writers do suck. Maybe he upset someone, so they held a grudge against him for the rest of his life.
Yeah, fun. All right. Well, should we move to the north side? Are you ready? Did the buzzer go off?
Yeah, it did. It went on while you were
All right.
talking Dick Ellen, so you had already talked too much about
Okay,
that.
perfect.
So
We got to switch the segment.
I'm hoping the buzzer goes off
Well,
really soon when you start this segment. So go.
well, a couple notes on the Cubs since we last joined you. Kyle Hendricks signed with the LA Angels, which is just kind of sad because the Angels are such a clown show. It's just going to be weird seeing Hendricks in another uniform. I kind of wish he just retired as a Cub because I don't foresee him having a good year, or I certainly don't see the Angels having much success as they never do. So it's just going to look strange. I got to talk about Hendricks. I had to mention it at least because really he started the two most important games in my Cubs fandom lifetime. In 2016, he started the pennant clinching NLCS game against the Dodgers in 2016 and sent them to the World Series for the first time since 1945. He also started Game 7, the greatest game in baseball history, Wednesday night in November. As the Cubs pitched 4 2/3 as Joe Madden took him out too soon, of course, and led to all sorts of mayhem, which finally led to eventually the Cubs' glorious World Series victory. But yeah, I mean it's an incredible legacy to start those two games, the two biggest games I can imagine. So wanted to throw his name out there at least as a memoriam, as we'll probably never hear about him again in Los Angeles. Beyond that, signings, Judd Hoyer has signed Matt Boyd, former Tiger, to a 2-year, I think $29 million contract. Just once again proving Jed Hoyer is excellent at signing number 3 or number 4 mediocre pitchers. That seems to be his MO in free agency. It seems like a bit of an overpay. It's only 2 years though, so it's whatever. But Matt Boyd, super nice guy. Had a reputation in Detroit as being one of the nicest guys. Very mediocre pitcher, mid-4 ERAs. He did. He got. I forget where he went after the Tigers, but he was in Cleveland last year, coming off an injury, and did have a strong second half, and was actually in the rotation in the playoffs. So Cleveland may have unlocked something with Boyd. I just remember hearing about Boyd all the time from like outside Detroit, seeing him all the time in Detroit. I was just never blown away, but he came up a lot outside of Detroit because everyone was enamored with his tunneling, which was kind of a new thing back then. You hear it, it's everywhere now, but he was kind of one of the first tunnelers where like every pitch he threw looked the same, uh, 75% of the way to the plate, and then it could break in any direction. Well, that sounds cool, but the results were never there with him. So I don't know if he finally figured that out, how to make that effective, or if Cleveland helped unlock that. We definitely have the connection between the front offices of Cleveland and the Cubs now. So maybe they saw something there too that they can build upon. So I don't know. I've got such mediocre thoughts about Boyd going into it, but maybe they could unlock something, and maybe he would be more than a number 4 starter for them, or get production thereof. So beyond that, this week with winter meetings, lots of interesting trade rumors going around. The last one I saw recently was potentially a trade with the Astros for Kyle Tucker, which is really, that would be a huge upgrade for an offense that just hasn't really put it together, that we feel like there's kind of nowhere for them to go. I think we talked about that the last few episodes. They've kind of worked themselves into a corner with free agents, bumping up against their de facto salary cap. And then
sound effects galore in this episode.
Yeah. So I don't even remember what I was saying now, but the Kyle Tucker would be a huge, he'd be a massive upgrade for the offense. But the names I've seen that would go back to Houston don't really make sense to me. Like I saw one place where it was Isaac Paredes plus Seiya Suzuki plus a prospect. I'm like, well, that's interesting because you only have Kyle Tucker for one more year. They'd be trading him for the 25 season, and he's a free agent after that. So that seemed like a steep price. Then today I'm reading it would be Isaac Paredes or Seiya Suzuki, which is like, well, yeah, I'd do that in a second. So it's kind of been, I don't know, the rumors are kind of all over the place. They don't really make any sense. So Paredes, to trade for 1 year Kyle Tucker, I would definitely part ways with Paredes. The Seiya Suzuki rumor is strange to me because he's got a full no trade clause. So he would have to agree that he'd want to go to Houston, which I don't know if that's something he'd want to do. But I don't know. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I'm not sure how much validity is behind those rumors. Kyle Tucker would certainly be an interesting piece that would change my view of the Cubs offense going into 2025. So I'd be all for it if they can swing it somehow. You've heard rumors about Cody Bellinger getting. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I felt the same way as you when I saw Paredes and Suzuki. I'm like, well, you're not gonna get the same offensive production out of just Tucker to trade away both those guys and a prospect for the 1 year. So it seems like way too much.
Yeah.
Unless there was some way you were going to sign him prior, like a trade and a sign immediately. If you had that in the works, then maybe. But I don't like, to me, like looking at it from you want to upgrade your offense. Well, I think you kind of want to keep Suzuki and have Kyle Tucker. You know what I mean? And be able to leverage both of them in the outfield and DH, and then
I don't want to see Suzuki in the outfield anymore. He cannot. He just can't play the outfield. Something's going on with his vision or something. He was a disaster. So I think your point to is playing DH might make sense, but I could see why you'd want to hold on to Suzuki for his offense. But I'm sorry, I think I cut you off again. We've got a big delay going on again, so sorry.
No, you didn't. You didn't cut me off. No, you're good.
Okay. Well, Bellinger, I mentioned briefly. He's supposed to be on the trading block, which is hilarious because he unexpectedly exercised his player option to come back to the Cubs, which I don't think they were prepared for. So it's like, well, you come back, we'll just fucking trade you. Although I still don't see how the Cubs are a better team without Bellinger. That seems like the kind of guy that's okay, we'll deal with that and add around him for this one more season. I know you're not as big a fan of Bellinger, but I don't think he's a bad player. He might be overvalued, might be paid a bit much, but Cubs can afford it, except they choose not to. And that's why they're deciding they need to trade him because they're too close to that de facto salary cap. So that's just frustrating. Go ahead.
Yeah. What else? Sorry, time's up. What I'll say about Bellinger is I was the least shocked individual, I guess, that he exercised his option. There's no way he's going to get any more money than that based on his performance last year. So there's nothing shocking there. The fact that the Cubs are shocked is crazy to me because I think Boris is his agent or whatever, but like, there's no way you'd be like, just take the money. You're not going to get, you needed another season like you had the year prior with the Cubs to shop yourself around again, and he didn't have it.
Yeah,
I think I don't disagree. Like, he obviously has, he has value. It's just I only think a team with who's spend happy would even trade for him. To unless the Cubs are going to eat like a substantial amount of that salary this year.
Yeah, they don't want to do that. The whole point is getting rid of his salary.
Yeah,
so they would not do that. So I don't know. We'll see where that goes. That might not go anywhere. So it's just frustrating when I hear his name in trade talks because there's no reason for the Cubs to be wanting to trade him other than to save cash, and that's just stupid. One final tidbit on the Cubs I wanted to mention. I just heard this, I think yesterday, that Dansby Swanson apparently had a sports hernia all of last year, at least a significant portion of last year, and didn't tell the fucking Cubs. It was a surprise to the Cubs to learn after the season was over that he had to have surgery on his sports hernia, which that just seems bizarre. Like I know that you're supposed to be the tough guy. He's trying to be the face of the franchise. He gets paid more than anybody. He's got the biggest contract. you got to play through injuries. That might be his mentality. You got to tell the team that you have that kind of injury, that you're fighting it, so they can help you deal with it, I guess. So I just thought that was bizarre that he wouldn't even mention it to the team. The Cubs were caught off guard this offseason that he just had surgery. It also, you wonder, like, I think the recovery time is pretty quick, but maybe it isn't. They could have been planning ahead if they knew he was going to have the surgery for worst case scenario. If he wasn't going to be available by the opening day, if that's a potential issue, it just withholding that information just seems irresponsible by your highest paid player. He owes that to the organization to let them know what the fuck's going on, so they might be able to help him if there's anything. So I thought that was a really strange decision, strange news to come out of the North Side. I don't know if you heard anything about that.
I just read about it like on Monday, and I thought the same thing. I'm like, I get like, I do. I appreciate the idea of like, I'm going to play through this thing and whatnot. But to your point, okay, you tell the team it's not bad enough for me to be shut down. I want to play through it. Well, then you could get freaking treatment for it. There's things I'm sure the training staff, the medical staff could have been doing to help alleviate, some of the pain he was having. So I don't know. It's really, really weird to me that he didn't bring it up, but oh well. Hopefully that's good. Hopefully that's good news though for this upcoming season, because he obviously did not have the type of year anyone's anticipating. So we know part of the reason why. So hopefully he'll have a good year. I mean, he's a solid player, so I would expect as much. So
it also kind of builds in an excuse if he sucks at any point next year. It's like, well, he must be hurt and just isn't telling anyone. So it just leads to shrouds of doubt, I guess, over Dansby Swanson every time you see him play. Like, what's going on here? Do we really know what the whole truth? So it's just not a good look. But that's all I've got for the Cubs. If we want to move all the way over to your San Francisco Giants.
Whoa, making a splash. See what I did there, everybody? That's right, Buster Posey. He likes to pass out fat contracts to players, and he's done it again. Willy Adames, a 7-year, $182 million contract. There's no options in that either, baby. No fucking options. I've already talked enough about it. Thank you. Good night. No options. I kept looking at Sports Track. I'm like, wait, where's the club option or the player option or the opt out? There is no fucking opt out of this thing. They got him till he's 35 years old. Here's what I'm going to say about it.
He was a 3-WAR player last year. I mean, he was the best shortstop on the market, but oh my God.
I have very mixed emotions about this. There's positives and I don't know, could be more negatives, but here we go. One, I like the fact that the Giants didn't sit on their hands and wait anything out. Because I will tell you, after the Juan Soto signing, which we're going to get to later, happened the next day, and then the Max Fried signing happened after that. But after the Juan Soto signing happened, I wouldn't have been surprised if Willy Adames went to the Yankees or something like that for maybe even more money, because they had the money to spend. So the Giants, by getting him off the market before all that other stuff started to shake down, and mainly just because of his offensive numbers, Adames, was probably good. So they've got some much needed power. What I don't like about this trade is it's anti-Giants in that he had a 3.1 WAR. Well, the reason his WAR was 3.1 was just because of his offense last year. His defensive WAR is negative 0.7. He was actually behind. He was actually behind Paul DeJong and Nicky Lopez on the White Sox in defensive WAR.
Oh my God.
Yes, I want to put that in perspective. This is not a prototypical Giants move. It seemed that way because everyone's like, oh, he's a 3-point WAR. He's, like you said, he was the best shortstop in this class, free agent class, but only because of his offense. He committed 20 errors. And I cringe a little bit at that. Will we like his offensive numbers? Sure. But is that going to be enough to overlook like a key moment of the game and a double play doesn't get turned and the team gets an extra out? And will the Giants
Yeah.
be able to overcome that? I don't know, because that's not the Giants have always their success on the teams that Buster Posey played on for 3 world championships over a 5-year span was solid pitching and solid defense. That was their formula. And that is not what you're getting with Willy Adames, especially by the time he's 35 at the end of this fucking contract.
Yeah.
Again, offensively, he's like a 5 tool guy. He had 32 homers, 112 ribbies, 21 stolen bases, 33 doubles. I'm not going to argue that point. It's that, is that enough? And is that going to be enough 3 years from now? Is he going to be able to do those numbers 3 years from now? What does that look like? So, like, I question this a bit like the Matt Chapman. It's real easy to go out and give a player the deal he wants. It's harder to navigate and be shrewd in your moves to build a balanced team. And I have yet to see that out of Buster Posey. Even if you read his interview, Posey's interview in The Athletic about this, it was like, how did he land Willy Adames? So we just have a really honest conversation about what we wanted and what he wanted, and we made it happen. Okay, well, that was the same situation with your negotiation with Matt Chapman before you got the job. You basically said, what do you want? Okay, here you go. So, I don't know. I'm not impressed with Buster Posey so far. So we'll see what that looks like down the road. But again, do the Giants need offense? Yeah, hell yeah, they need offense. But I like the idea of I'd give up 10 of those home runs for a plus defensive WAR. So I don't know.
And there's the buzzer.
And that's my closing thoughts on Willy Adames. More interesting news out of Buster Posey was he had a conversation with Madison Bumgarner, Mad Bum, about having a role within the organization. And I started to think before I saw a little more detail on it, what that would look like if, let's just consider Mad Bum in the front office and what a fucking shit show that would look like with how he approaches things with his fiery, I give zero fucks about things attitude. I was relieved to see that it was going to be more of like one of those like advisory roles where he might show up to spring training for 1 week and talk with the young pitchers and give them some advice. So it's not like some major role within the organization. It sounds like it'd be more of an ambassador type role. So
okay.
So they made it sound at first, though, the initial reports were like he was going to have some sort of front office role. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I don't think so. So, last thought on the Giants has to do with outgoing Giant Blake Snell. Blake Snell signed a similar contract to Willy Adames, but 2 years less. He got 5 years and $182 million out of the Dodgers. Congratulations,
Good for
Blake
Snell.
Snell. Yeah, good for Snell.
Yeah.
I'm kind of happy for the Dodgers too, because it's going to end up with it as a financial albatross eventually. I don't know that it'll affect them at all, but
No,
it's interesting.
it doesn't matter.
It had a $52 million signing bonus, so he got paid right off the bat.
Wow.
It's got a club option in 2030 for $10 million, but I didn't see this part talked about in any article. They deferred money, $5.5 million a year from 2035 to 2046 for a total of $60.5 million. Basically, from age 42 to 53. It's basically Blake Snell went to the Dodgers and also got a retirement plan out of it.
Yeah. Not a bad plan.
No.
My God.
I'm shocked more players don't do this. When I read that, I said, wow. that is just smart. It's already more money than anyone needs in his yearly salary of like $35 million a year, right? But then he's got this backloaded 60.5 million of it's going to come to him after he's probably out of baseball. He doesn't even have to, obviously, hopefully he's smart enough to be properly invested with all the money he's getting anyway, but he's got this little nest egg of 5.5 coming. So, looking down the road at the Dodgers, if they sell the team at some point, you got to wonder, like, the backloading, the deferred money and all these things. I'm so hopeful that it all just comes crashing down in some fiery flame for the Dodgers in future years to come. But I did find it interesting that 11 years of deferred money are part of his contract. So
the buzzer go off. Is that the end of the Giants segment?
That's all I got on the Giants. I thought I wasn't with the weird delay. I wasn't sure if you were going to add something. Hey, check this out.
Yeah.
Can you see that? Can you see that?
See what? I can see you're moving the screen. What's going on?
Yeah. It means when my screen goes up and down, it means I have something to say. I wonder if we should use that the rest of the way. So I'm going to interject I'm going to interject at the next pause.
Okay, yeah. We'll see.
All right.
I don't know. It's fine. I can edit this shit out anyway, so it works.
All right.
Well, former Giant Alex Cobb was signed by my Detroit Tigers. As we transition smoothly over to my Tigers, it's kind of crazy, like how much overlap between our kind of 5 random teams that we follow here. That there's so much overlap between these two. But with the former Giant being now a Tiger, it's not too surprising since Scott Harris, general manager, president, and GM of the Tigers, was the GM of your Giants. So the incestual relationship continues. Alex Cobb, 37 years old, definitely at the tail end of his career. It's just a 1-year deal. There are no bad 1-year deals, as we always say. The funny thing, I don't know, what were your thoughts about Alex Cobb as a Giant? He was younger and more productive, but I feel like he never quite reached his potential with the Giants. I don't know. You might have more insight on that.
Yeah, no, I don't think he ever did reach his potential. I think he was always like, it was like, oh, if Alex Cobb has his year, then he's had good half seasons is what he's basically had. He's had good half seasons.
Yeah.
So usually he starts out pretty well and then is like fade to black, basically. And his ERA, he's had ERAs in the first half of the year that were like right around 3, maybe even a little bit under. And then the season ends and his ERA is like 4.5 and crap like that. So always, he was part of that prototypical pitcher that the Giants liked, but to your point, never got over that hump and has had a bunch of injuries. So that was part of the problem.
Well, maybe the magic of Chris Federer, Tigers pitching coach, that he's shown to be able to find reclamation projects and come up with the best out of them. Maybe that'll happen with Alex Cobb. The funniest part of the signing of Alex Cobb is the fan reaction has been just anger. Tigers fans are furious this offseason. It's crazy. Like I even saw some people like, oh, we don't need a pitcher. We need position players. Like, well, it's not mutually exclusive, but we need pitchers. We had one fucking starter in our rotation by the end of last season. Like, we're going to need some depth there. So I don't know why you'd be upset that we signed a pitcher, even though it's not the one you wanted. I feel like Tigers fans are far more interested in how much Chris Ilitch spends this offseason than how many games the team actually wins. People are just obsessed with the Tigers payroll. They're convinced that Chris Ilitch will never spend the way his father did in the free rolling days of the early 2000s and teens. I don't know. It's just vitriol, immediate vitriol as soon as Alex Cobb was signed. We need Alex Bregman, not Alex Cobb. That's what everyone was saying. So it's like, well, we could do both. Although I would advise against Bregman. It's kind of a similar obsession with the Tigers fans last offseason where everyone I feel like everyone's, maybe besides me, wanted Matt Chapman, who eventually signed with your Giants again. I wasn't into it, and I'm even less into Alex Bregman. I think Bregman's maybe a better offensive player than Chapman, but the contract that he would demand in the years would be ridiculous. It'd be over $200 million is what they're talking about. He'd want a 7 or 8 year deal. And it's like, we just got out from underneath this shit with Miguel Cabrera. We're seeing the worst version of this with Javi Baez. Like, why are we so ready to jump into these giant contracts for aging veterans? I think he's 31. So these contracts would be going until he's almost 40 that he's asking for. So I'm not interested in that. I'm just not. And I don't really even give a fuck how much the Tigers spend. I would like them to spend more. They have such an interesting, fun, young team. It's like everyone forgot about last season already. It's like, let's see what we've got here. Let's add strategically, but we don't have to go after the biggest free agent every time just to say we're spending money for the sake of spending money. It's ridiculous. I've seen it on social media, which is one thing, but it's all over Detroit Sports Talk Radio. A lot of hosts, Jim Costa, I've had problems with over the years. Anytime the Tigers do anything, he essentially wants Scott Harris fired, and it's just stupid. And to host the morning drive show, one of the biggest shows in Detroit, and to be completely anti Scott Harris no matter what he does is just ridiculous. And it just sounds like a petulant child. So that's been the entertaining part of this winter meeting section of the off season. I think the Tigers can certainly upgrade their offense. I think that's critical that they do in some regards. I think they're going to do it through trades more than through free agency. I just don't see the matchup there that makes sense. Bregman is the obvious third baseman on the market. Tigers have a hole at third base that could be filled. Again, for those reasons I stated, I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that's the direction they're going to go anyway. Trades, Scott Harris did say they have two offseason goals. They want to add a right-handed bat and starting pitching. They're starting to add starting pitchers. I don't think he's done, hopefully, with just Alex Cobb, but maybe he is. I think there's another signing there to be had. The right-handed bat is interesting. The Tigers were very left-handed by the end of the season, which worked to their advantage, but it definitely you don't want to go too far in either direction. It's kind of unique that a team would be too left-handed. I think it's probably a good problem to have because it shouldn't be hard to find right-handed bats to fill in. So that has led to rumors where the Tigers could be interested in more aging veterans like Paul Goldschmidt, which I'm not in favor of at all. That just seems like he's been in severe decline over the last 2 years. I think he might be 38. Is he that old now? It's just not going in a good direction. That would be just to sign somebody just for a name. And that's not where the Tigers need to go. That would also mark potentially the end of Spencer Torkelson's career as a Tiger. If that were to come through, I don't know where he would fit in anymore, as he's clearly lost favor within the organization for good reason. But I've heard potential trade rumors that Nolan Arenado could come to play third base. I don't know what the Tigers have to give up. They've got plenty of farm system depth, especially in the middle infield, with the star of all that being Max Clark, number 5 prospect in all of baseball. But you've also got Jace Young, who made his major league debut last year into mixed reviews. He tried to play third base. They've been trying to groom him for that. He's just not a third baseman. More than likely, he's a second baseman. But we've got plenty of players for that too. So Colt Keith played second base and was tremendous, basically through the entire second half and into the playoffs. The idea potentially there is to move him to first base if they don't sign Paul Goldschmidt or someone like that, or Pete Alonso, I've heard, which I think is a pipe dream and not necessarily what they need. But it sounds like they're kind of moving on past Torkelson, unless he has a breakout spring and can get off to a hot start. So I'm not sure what's happening there. I think that's about it for the Tigers. It's just, it's just a general state of angst right now, and I don't feel that. I do not have that with my Tigers. It was such a magical run, unexpected run into the playoffs. They didn't just make the playoffs on a whim or on luck. They were the best team in baseball for the second half of the season. They won a playoff series. They should have won 2. They were 6 outs away from winning 2 and making it to the ALCS. So it wasn't a fluke what they did. They can build upon that, but if they don't spend hundreds of millions of dollars in this offseason, they're going to be okay. This is not a contest to see who spends the most money. Although you could argue that with how the Dodgers are approaching things. And also we'll get to the Mets here in a bit, but calm down, Detroit. We're going to be fine. We got I think one of the best coaching staffs. We've got the best young lineup in all of baseball, and we've got the reigning Cy Young Award winner in our rotation. So chill out. Well, that's all I've got for the Tigers. I think we haven't done this segment in quite a while, but I think we've got interesting shit we couldn't make up. A couple things here. I think we first need to start with the most ridiculous thing I've heard maybe ever in at least in terms of baseball. And Rob Manfred went on some weird podcast and threw out the idea of the golden at bat. Which
I can't even take this seriously.
First of all, it's such a corny name. It's got bad branding to begin with. It was proposed by the least popular person who probably doesn't like anything about baseball anyway, Rob Manfred, the owner's lawyer, who's far more interested in labor negotiations than he is anything with the game. But just to call it the golden at bat just sounds so corny. It's just like the Golden Bachelor or the Golden Girls. Like, what is this? It needs better branding, if anything. But do you want to describe what the golden at bat would be?
Yes. Correct. Feel free to jump in, but it is a key moment in the game, and you can use your golden at bat to have whatever hitter you'd like hit at that moment in the game.
No matter where it comes up in the lineup,
yes,
yeah, completely outside. If the scenarios I heard, the ridiculous ones would be, a player just got an out. Well, you'd want him to come right back up and bat again. It's just so ridiculous. I don't know. There's different potential permutations to this. They could do it in different ways where it could only happen if you're trailing. It could only happen in the 7th inning and beyond. I don't know. You and I have been very open-minded. And in fact, we've been proponents of the recent rule changes. And I think they've been a massive success in baseball. Those all solve problems. The pitch clock got rid of all the bullshit where there's nothing happening. The pitch clock took care of that. The eliminating the shift is helping batting averages. The larger bases, which we kind of made fun of at first, you don't even notice that we have larger bases anymore. In fact, looking at old footage, small bases look really small now. That was meant to increase stolen bases, which I think that's kind of, there was a spike in that and it's kind of dropped off again, but they might address that again. But those are trying to address problems. And I think they've done a really good way. They've done a good job of addressing those particular problems. What problem does the golden at bat solve? Like, what are we doing? Like, it doesn't create anything other than it's a fucking gimmick.
Yeah.
They're trying to create I've heard people make the analogy that, LeBron James could always take the last shot of a close game where you don't necessarily get that. Aaron Judge doesn't automatically come up in the key moment in the 9th inning of the World Series. But it just feels way too manufactured. It's just gimmicky. I just feel, again, it's just trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, the way baseball is structured overall, to me, it's a pretty perfect sport.
That's why we love it. That's why we're doing a goddamn podcast about it, because of those simple things. It's such a perfect game like that.
And what you've essentially done is you've turned it into like the minute I heard it, I'm like, oh, is this like an arcade game now? Because that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of like, there's no rules. We're playing arcade style, so Aaron Judge can bat all 9 times in the lineup or whatever. Like the idea of
Yeah.
of also like to me, you said, what problem does it eliminate? I said, well, to me, it eliminates the ninth hitter in the order at any point in the game. You want to get rid of that, but it is not. It has no service to your point, Smitty. You did it perfectly. You set it up perfectly. Everything they've done so far has progressed the game in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's made it more fun. It's like the idea that in most cases, I'm only need 2.5 hours to watch a baseball game now is a plus to me. It is. Would I sit there for 3 hours? Sure. I'll sit and watch baseball as long as I have to. But the fact that on average it's like 2 hour, 2.5 to 2:45 in the games I mostly watch has been great. This is it's just fucking insane. The idea that you just like and that's the first thing I thought of. The thing you brought up right away was like okay, Aaron Judge just struck out. Well, just go bat again. Or like it just makes zero sense. It just is it creates to me an impurity in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that a whole strategic element has been now removed from the game. The fact that someone who's batting 3 in the lineup can also bat 9th in the lineup at any one point in the game makes
you could
zero.
You could argue that it's adding. You could argue that it's adding one element of strategy, just especially if you could only use it once in a game, and if it could only be in the 9th, 7th, 8th, or 9th. When to use that, how to use that. That's another strategic element, but it's the cost of that is kind of the sanctity of the game. It's just too stupid to do that. Fortunately, it seems like this has been universally panned everywhere. Everyone freaked out far more than you and I think even. So it's just ridiculous idea. Ridiculous that it comes from Rob Manfred, and just terrible name. Again, like I feel like you and I could come up with a better idea. Like, I mean, you like an arcade moment. It's like the arcade at bat, or I mean, it's the golden at bat is so bad. It's almost like it's almost, I think of like the home run derby, maybe different rules over the years where there's like a Super Ball that was worth 5 points or something, like
right.
The golden ball.
Yeah.
Do they bring out the gold ball for the golden at bat? I don't know. It's just bad.
Now, I have a better idea because it's called the golden at bat. Is if like you kept a retired player on the bench, like Barry Bonds comes off of the bench for the Giants for the golden at bat, or
that's awesome.
Yeah, right. Now that gets a lot more fucking interesting, right? I think it does.
I
so
like it.
You keep your biggest, like the Big Hurts or Canerco sitting on the bench for the White Sox, the golden at bat. Come on out.
He's got those guys have one good at bat in them a week or a year,
exactly.
Whatever it is. Yeah, why not?
One of them guesses correctly on a fastball, it gone. That's excitement.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some life to this. So I don't know.
Yeah. Let's get nuts. If we're gonna get nuts, let's get fucking crazy.
Let's go crazy.
Well, speaking of crazy, we could say the money and years of the Juan Soto contract are fucking crazy.
Unbelievable.
Steve Cohen said he was going to get his guy, and he definitely got his guy. $765 over 15 years?
Yep.
Wow. That is going big. Sorry, I thought you were going to say something.
No, I can't. Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. I was trying to, like, this contract. Like, first of all, let me say this. Juan Soto is not Shohei Ohtani by any stretch. So, is he a great offensive player? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But to give him this type of money has just flipped baseball on its head. More so than the Ohtani deal did, because Ohtani's a generational talent, which is
Ohtani's basically 2 players, because you're getting an all-star batter and an all-star pitcher. So that money made sense. I guess I I don't begrudge Juan Soto. The fact that the Mets weren't the only one going over 700 million for him also kind of speaks to how much money is out there. The Red Sox are involved. The Yankees, of course, were involved. In fact, I think the thing that put it over the top for the Mets is they offered Soto a private suite in the stadium for any game, all the games. I guess the Yankees weren't willing to do that, so that's part of it. But I don't know. It's crazy how much money that is. Soto's 26. He's going to be great for the majority of that a lot of that contract. Maybe not the majority, but he's not a great defender.
No.
To your point, so he's going to be a DH sooner than later. So it's not our problem. Steve Cohen can spend all the money he wants, I guess. There's no salary cap. There will be, I believe, potentially as we get closer to 2028, as there's going to be massive work stoppage, I'm afraid, because of things like this. The haves and have-nots, that gulf has grown exponentially over the last 2 years.
The what's interesting is Soto can opt out of it at age 30 in 2029.
Oh yeah, after the first 5.
Yeah, he has an opt out, which
I
is
bet you he'll
interesting.
exercise that. Yeah.
I mean, if he plays lights out and got all that money, why not opt out of it and get even? Well, I don't know. It's still $50 million fucking dollars a year. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, it's hard to say what the economics will be, with inflation and everything else. Plus, there's going to be a new CBA at that time. The rules are going to be different. There's a lot. There's a lot of variables, but the big reason he got such a huge deal and everyone knew it was going to be massive is just he's young. These types of players, these superstars, potentially the best hitter in baseball, they don't come available at a young age like this. So that was a huge factor, and that would be different, of course, 5 years from now. But so yeah, it's interesting. I forgot that he had that opt out clause, but which makes it even better for him. So congratulations. And I don't, no one needs to feel bad about Steven Cohen. He's got the money, he's spending it. He actually is. He's kind of the example of what we want our owners to do. Like, he's a fan. He will do whatever it takes to make his team as good as it can be. He's not limited. He's not limiting anything like Tom Ricketts does to the arbitrary competitive balance tax. Somehow the Cubs revenues always equal that, and they can't spend one dime over it, even though they did this past year, which is hilarious. Because of a clerical error, most likely. I think if a guy like Steven Cohen owned the Tigers, I would be all for it. If a guy like Steven Cohen owned the White Sox, I think you'd be all for it, as we've seen kind of the complete opposite of that. But unless you had any more about Juan's,
I'm all for it with our current owner. He just sucks. See, yeah. I'm setting you up.
Well, yeah. If that's all we have to discuss with Juan Soto, I think this is going to lead perfectly into our asshole of the year. I think we've got a couple nominations. Past years we had this is our 6th annual asshole of the year award that we're handing out. First year was Addison Russell for his domestic violence and just pissing away his entire career. Year 2, I believe, was Rob Manfred, which we could probably nominate him every year for a myriad reasons. Year 3 was the entire aforementioned Mets organization. I forget what year that was, 3 years ago. Just for the ridiculous things happening throughout that season for them.
Remember the rehearsal of the World Series celebration?
Yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, in spring training. That was good.
Fernando Tatis Jr. was our asshole of the year 2 years ago for his PED, the face of baseball, being suspended for PEDs. And then last year was your owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, for all the reasons. All those reasons still exist this year, and I think we could nominate. I think you definitely want to nominate him. I don't know if you want to go over the laundry list of your grievances with Jerry Reinsdorf.
Is this are we airing the grievances? Is this festive?
Yeah,
Festivus for
a little bit early Festivus. We're like 2 weeks away from Festivus, so
he doesn't spend any money as an owner. He
laughs at the idea of spending money.
Yes. He tried to get a new stadium out of the taxpayers yet again, while the team is in complete shambles and holds the record now for the worst team in baseball history. But I'm going to go and try to
By the
get a
way,
tax-funded stadium.
yeah, yeah. By the way, that tax loophole that has led to the White Sox and Bears racing for new stadium deals with the city, that tax loophole closes on December 31st. We're just a couple weeks away from that. I have not heard anything about either of those projects moving forward. It sounds like the Bears might be resigned to moving to the property they already own out in Arlington, but I haven't heard any more about the White Sox stadium. Have you?
No, God, that the minute the Bears were maybe coming back to Chicago along the lakefront, like the White Sox stadium news just completely just went away, like it never even happened.
Yeah.
That happened, and then the Reinsdorf and Wirtz dropped the news about that project in the West Loop around the United Center. So there's been no talk
Right.
at all, because that one's all self-funded. The Wirtz,
Right.
the Reinsdorf project surrounding United Center. So anyway, he launched a new sports network with the Wirtzes, Chicago Sports Network, that no one can get. They finally released the ability to buy a subscription. They want you to pay $30 a month to watch the Bulls, Blackhawks, and Sox, who probably will have a combined record of 300 games under 500 by the time the baseball season ends next year. They did
Yikes.
just launch, though, however, individual packages. So for me to watch the White Sox this upcoming year will be $19.99. It's $19.99 per month per team. Yes, it should be $19.99 for the entire summer. I agree, Smitty.
Yeah.
But it's $19.99 a month. And you can cancel anytime, so I can just keep it for the first 2 months of the baseball season when I'll care, and then dump it. But because of poor planning, they still don't have a Comcast agreement worked out. They did just recently get a Hulu launched. Hulu Live added it this week, and Fubo has it, and one other streaming service has it besides DirecTV. But yeah, I have YouTube TV. They don't have it. They probably have no interest in having it because they generally don't have local sports networks on their subscription service. So overall, I really like YouTube TV. So I don't know that it's enough for me to cancel that and switch to Hulu Live. So I don't know. He, as an owner, he calls himself a fan, but it's such a lie, because if he were a fan, he would be able to see through his own bullshit and invest some money into this team. And he treats the team as a business transaction, not as a fan of baseball. Just like you say about Ricketts, like at least Ricketts is close to right at the cap, but Jerry's not even close, and we're not going to be close. We're probably going to be halfway there at even that. And it's just he's undeserving of a world championship again for that team. He was probably undeserving when it kind of happened accidentally. I mean, luckily Kenny pulled all the right moves that year. I mean, it's not like they invested a shit ton of money in the team to make it better. Everything just clicked. It all worked out. They found the right parts that could all work together.
Yeah, they rested on that for a couple decades now. So
yeah, so
I want to dispute one thing you said about him. I think he is a fan, but I think he's a fan of the Brooklyn Dodgers that doesn't exist anymore. His ideas are so antiquated. He talks about his favorite players, people like David Eckstein. It's just like, what are we talking about? He's just so disconnected from reality. And clearly he's created a completely inept organization over time. So he's had the team for 40 years. And at this point, any White Sox fan's greatest hope is just that he passes away. which is so gross to think about that. But it's like the only way you've got hope. I don't know. Do you have more on your laundry list, or is that the end of the airing of grievances? Well,
that's good enough.
Yeah. Well, it in any other year, I think we would be giving Jerry Reinsdorf our asshole of the year award for the second consecutive year. I think we could, but any other year it would work, except for this year, as the Oakland A's owner. Sorry, it is not the Oakland A's. It is just the A's, or the Athletics owner, John Fisher, has to win it this year because he's actually has moved his team. After 40 years in Oakland, just through just vitriol, just bad faith negotiations, spent 20 years trying to get a stadium deal done where he didn't really want to get a stadium deal done, clearly. He's always wanted to move the team to Las Vegas. In fact, so desperately so, he's going to play the next 3 years in Sacramento in a 10,000 seat AAA stadium, which is just going to be hilarious to see. On top of that, recent news is the A's have signed Luis Severino to a 3-year, $67 million contract, the biggest contract in A's history. Less than a month after removing the name Oakland and 2 months after playing their last game in Oakland, suddenly he has money to spend on the team. They signed Luis Severino, which is just a bizarre deal. Severino's got a 3-year deal. I think he's got an opt-out after the second year. That means he's never going to play in Las Vegas. He's going to anytime he's going to spend with the A's is going to be in Sacramento, which is just hilarious. Why are they doing this? Why are they spending any money if they haven't spent money in years? Why are they suddenly spending it, other than just to be a big slap to the face of all Oakland fans? I don't understand Severino is going to take the money, but that just seems like a miserable existence, going to a team that's in complete limbo, playing in a AAA stadium for 3 years. Just so strange. The other news to add on top of this is that mythical stadium that has not yet broken ground in Las Vegas or has received Nevada taxpayer approval to fund is now going to cost an additional $250 million that they weren't anticipating, which I don't know how that could happen just out of nowhere. Nothing has happened other than the planning stages, but now it's going to cost, I think it went from 1.5 billion to 1.75 billion. The strange part about that is the Fisher family has announced that they will make up that difference. To eventually they want to pay 1.1 billion of that and have taxpayers pay for the rest. Where'd that money suddenly come from? Why wasn't that money available when they were trying to get a deal done in Oakland? It's like all of a sudden all this money comes out right as soon as they leave Oakland, just in time for this potential, I will continue to say potential, stadium in Las Vegas to be built, because there is nothing signed yet. There's not a shovel in the ground. Just a complete slap to the face of any baseball fan in Oakland. I feel so bad for them. I can't imagine what that would be like. I heard a funny thing over the offseason. Not a funny idea, not in funny circumstances at all, but the Tampa Rays stadium was damaged severely by Hurricane Melton back in, was that September, where the roof was ripped off. So the Rays were trying to figure out a place to play this coming season. There was all sorts of ideas thrown out there. Eventually they did settle. They're going to be playing in another AAA state or spring training facility, the Yankees spring training facility there in Tampa. Cause it's going to cost like $60 million just to renovate, just to fix the roof. They're also working on a deal for a new stadium in Tampa. So they're not sure if they want to spend $60 million on a roof, if they're just going to tear that terrible stadium down anyway. So the idea was thrown out there, like where else could the Rays potentially play next year? It's not going to happen, but someone threw out the idea. There's a functioning Major League Stadium right there in Oakland. What if the Rays relocated to Oakland to use the Coliseum? Because there was a team playing there for the last 40 years. Why can't they play there now after the A's have moved out? Which I thought would have been brilliant, because I think former A's fans would have come out in droves just to prove to John Fisher that they are baseball fans. They are there. They would come out to to watch a legitimate baseball team if he had put one on the field. And I think that would have been so much fun to watch, to see how Oakland would support the Tampa Bay Rays in Oakland. So just to spite him, because he has shown nothing but spite to the people of Oakland. So that's why I think, I hope you agree. I know Jerry Reinsdorf is very worthy of a second consecutive asshole of the year, but I think we've got to give it to John Fisher.
Yeah, I agree, because he somehow. Oh, I feel like John Fisher and Jerry Reinsdorf are connected in the baseball ownership universe, and I feel like A's fans and White Sox fans are connected too because of this. And but by far, everything that John Fisher has done is just it's just despicable. Like you said, where was this money when he was in Oakland? It's like he specifically sabotaged everything just to leave. He didn't want to be in Oakland anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's my asshole of the year by far.
Well, they are, Reinsdorf and Fisher are forever connected as our 5th and 6th assholes of the year. So they have that together. So congratulations, fuckers. Well, with that, I think we can wrap this show up. I do have one final question, as I believe this will be our final show of the year, unless some breaking news happens in the next couple weeks. Might take the holidays off here. I do have one final question for you, though.
Yeah.
Did they ever solve that shooting mystery at Sox Park?
Oh God, no. The Guntgate remains a forever mystery in the White Sox, in the Chicago Police Department. I mean, they have. Last I checked, it was, this case remains a mystery, and don't expect any resolution to it, is basically what the article said.
Seems like they would want to solve that. So to give fans peace of mind, either the shots came from inside the ballpark or they came from outside the ballpark. We've talked about this for years. Was that 2 years ago now? 2.5 or a year and a half?
Yeah, year and a half.
They've stepped up their security, which you were a victim of, where wasn't it going off like crazy for, I forget your story with that, but
yeah, the first time
I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah, the first time ever my Apple Watch set it off.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, what the fuck?
They're running a tight ship there now, so I just had to throw that in there. I always need to know if, next time I go to a Sox game, should I feel safe? But I guess we'll never know. Well, I think that means we can wrap up this episode 155, potentially our last show of 2024. There might be a reason to come back, maybe between Christmas and New Year's if you're available, or just before Christmas. I think there might be some free agent signings or potentially trades that we're going to need to talk about involving our team. So hopefully this isn't the end, but in case it is, happy holidays to all. Thank you for tuning in. You can catch this podcast on the web at majorleagueaholes.com and our merchandise at aesthetics.shop, ASSTHETICS.shop. You can find us on social media at Major League A-Holes and at Sox Type Thing. You can find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/at Major League A-Holes. Check that out. We've had our biggest year by far on YouTube in total viewers. So we're approaching the 300 subscriber mark. So maybe we can get to that before opening day next year. That'd be a good goal to set. And in the meantime, you can find this podcast anywhere you'd like to find a podcast. So with that, I'm going to say this podcast is over. Peace.
Wordhole Media.